From the time we are children, many of us are taught that kindness is one of the greatest virtues a person can possess. We are encouraged to share, forgive, avoid arguments, and always think about the feelings of others before our own. We grow up believing that if we are patient, generous, understanding, and polite, life will eventually reward us with love, respect, and appreciation. This belief sounds comforting because it reflects the world as we wish it to be. Unfortunately, the real world is often far more complicated. Kindness is valuable, but kindness without boundaries can become an invitation for exploitation. The painful truth is that being excessively nice does not automatically earn respect. In many situations, it simply teaches people that you are willing to sacrifice yourself for their convenience. There is a significant difference between being genuinely kind and constantly trying to please everyone. Genuine kindness comes from inner strength. It is a conscious choice to help others while maintaining your own dignity and values. People-pleasing, on the other hand, often comes from fear. It is driven by the fear of rejection, conflict, criticism, or abandonment. When someone becomes trapped in the need to keep everyone happy, they slowly begin to neglect their own needs. They apologize for things that are not their fault, agree to requests they want to refuse, and remain silent even when they are treated unfairly. Over time, they become invisible, not because they lack value, but because they have taught others that their own needs always come last. Many people mistakenly believe that if they keep giving more, others will eventually appreciate their sacrifices. They convince themselves that one more favor, one more compromise, or one more act of patience will finally make people recognize their worth. Yet reality often moves in the opposite direction. Human beings naturally adapt to what becomes normal. If you always say yes, people begin to expect your yes. If you always forgive without consequence, people begin to expect forgiveness. If you never complain, they assume nothing is wrong. Instead of appreciating your generosity, they start treating it as an obligation. Imagine someone who is always available whenever friends need help. They cancel their own plans, ignore their own responsibilities, and constantly put everyone else's problems ahead of their own. At first, people may thank them. But after some time, those same people stop asking whether it is convenient. They simply assume the answer will always be yes. The person's kindness has become predictable. Instead of earning admiration, it has become a resource others rely on without gratitude. The moment that person finally says no, everyone reacts with surprise or even anger. Suddenly, they are accused of changing, becoming selfish, or forgetting their friends. In reality, they have simply started respecting themselves. Respect is built differently from approval. Approval comes from making others comfortable. Respect comes from demonstrating that you value yourself enough to protect your boundaries. People may enjoy someone who never disagrees, but they rarely admire them. They may appreciate someone who never says no, but they seldom take them seriously. Respect grows when people understand that your kindness is a choice rather than a weakness. It grows when they know you are capable of refusing unfair treatment, defending your principles, and walking away from unhealthy situations. One of the greatest misunderstandings in modern society is the belief that avoiding conflict always creates peace. In reality, avoiding conflict often creates resentment. Every time you silence your opinions to satisfy someone else, a small part of your confidence disappears. Every time you tolerate disrespect without speaking up, your self-esteem weakens. Every time you ignore your own emotions to protect someone else's comfort, you send yourself a dangerous message that your feelings do not matter. Eventually, all of these suppressed frustrations accumulate until they become exhaustion, bitterness, or emotional burnout. Many individuals spend years wondering why they feel invisible despite doing everything for everyone around them. They work harder than everyone else, support their friends through every crisis, remain loyal during difficult times, and always choose understanding over confrontation. Yet when they need help themselves, very few people are there. This painful experience reveals an important truth. Relationships built only on sacrifice are often one-sided. They survive because one person continues giving while the other continues receiving. Once the giving stops, the relationship often disappears as well. This does not mean that people are naturally cruel or malicious. Rather, human beings often respond to incentives and patterns. If someone consistently allows their time, energy, and emotions to be taken without limits, others unconsciously adapt to that arrangement. They stop recognizing the sacrifices because those sacrifices have become routine. The responsibility for changing this pattern does not lie entirely with others. It begins with the individual who decides that their own well-being deserves protection. Healthy kindness always includes boundaries. A boundary is not a punishment or an act of hostility. It is simply a clear statement of what you will and will not accept. Saying no does not make you selfish. Refusing to tolerate disrespect does not make you arrogant. Choosing your own mental health does not make you uncaring. In fact, boundaries make relationships healthier because they replace silent resentment with honest communication. They allow generosity to remain genuine instead of becoming an obligation fueled by guilt. There is also an important psychological reason why excessive niceness often attracts manipulation. Manipulative people naturally look for those who avoid confrontation. They recognize individuals who feel guilty saying no, who constantly seek approval, and who fear disappointing others. Such people become easy targets because they rarely defend themselves. A manipulator does not need to threaten someone who willingly surrenders their own needs. This is why learning assertiveness is one of the strongest forms of self-protection. Assertiveness is not aggression. It is the ability to communicate honestly, respectfully, and confidently without surrendering your rights. Confidence changes the way people respond to you. A confident person may still be generous, compassionate, and forgiving, but everyone understands that their generosity has limits. They help because they choose to, not because they feel trapped. They forgive when forgiveness is deserved, not because they fear losing someone. They give without expecting constant approval because their self-worth comes from within rather than from the opinions of others. Many successful leaders, entrepreneurs, and influential individuals understand this balance. They are often polite and respectful, but they are also decisive. They know when to negotiate and when to stand firm. They know when to cooperate and when to walk away. Their strength does not come from intimidating others but from refusing to abandon their own values. Because they respect themselves, others naturally begin to respect them as well. Perhaps the hardest lesson to learn is that not everyone deserves unlimited access to your kindness. Kindness should be given wisely, not blindly. Trust should be earned, not automatically granted. Compassion should never require sacrificing your dignity. The people who truly care about you will not become angry simply because you establish healthy limits. They will understand that your boundaries are expressions of self-respect rather than rejection. Those who become upset often benefited from your lack of boundaries in the first place. Life becomes very different once you stop measuring your worth by how pleased other people are with you. Instead of asking whether everyone likes you, you begin asking whether you are being honest with yourself. Instead of worrying about disappointing others, you focus on living according to your values. Instead of trying to avoid every conflict, you learn to handle disagreements with maturity and confidence. This shift transforms not only your relationships but also your inner peace. Real kindness is powerful because it comes from freedom rather than fear. It does not beg for acceptance or chase validation. It is offered voluntarily and withdrawn when it is abused. It understands that compassion without self-respect eventually becomes self-destruction. The strongest people are not those who constantly sacrifice themselves for everyone else. They are the ones who know how to care deeply while refusing to lose themselves in the process. Being a good person is still one of life's greatest virtues, but goodness should never require becoming invisible. Your generosity should not come at the expense of your dignity. Your patience should not become permission for mistreatment. Your forgiveness should not encourage repeated betrayal. When kindness is combined with confidence, boundaries, and self-respect, it becomes a source of strength instead of weakness. Only then do people begin to recognize that your kindness is a gift, not an obligation, and that respecting you is the natural consequence of the respect you first show yourself. From the outside, people often admire those who are endlessly patient, always agreeable, and willing to put everyone else first. They call them kind, generous, selfless, and compassionate. But beneath this image there is often a hidden emotional struggle that few people notice. Many individuals who constantly try to please others are not acting purely out of kindness. Instead, they are acting out of fear. Fear is the invisible force driving many of their decisions, shaping their behavior, and controlling their relationships. The desire to keep everyone happy is rarely about love alone. More often, it is about avoiding rejection, criticism, conflict, loneliness, or abandonment. No one is born believing that their own needs matter less than everyone else's. This belief develops slowly over time through experiences, family expectations, childhood environments, and social conditioning. A child who is constantly praised only when they behave perfectly begins to associate love with performance. They learn that acceptance must be earned rather than freely given. Every compliment becomes connected to obedience, politeness, and compliance. Every mistake brings criticism, disappointment, or emotional distance. Without realizing it, the child begins creating a false belief that says, if I make everyone happy, I will be loved. If I disappoint people, I will lose their affection. As the years pass, this belief becomes stronger. The child grows into an adult who cannot separate love from approval. They constantly monitor other people's emotions, trying to prevent anyone from becoming upset. They apologize even when they have done nothing wrong. They volunteer for responsibilities they cannot handle. They suppress their own opinions to avoid disagreement. Every decision is filtered through one exhausting question: what will everyone think about me? This pattern becomes so automatic that many people mistake it for kindness. They genuinely believe they are simply caring and considerate. Yet deep inside, anxiety is controlling their actions. They are not helping because they freely choose to help. They are helping because saying no feels terrifying. They are not avoiding arguments because they value peace. They are avoiding arguments because they fear rejection. Their behavior is not guided by confidence but by insecurity. Fear of rejection is one of the strongest emotional forces in human psychology. Throughout history, belonging to a group meant survival. Being excluded from the tribe could mean death. Although modern society has changed dramatically, our brains still react to social rejection as if it were a serious threat. This explains why criticism can feel physically painful and why many people will sacrifice their own happiness simply to avoid disappointing someone else. Unfortunately, people-pleasing never truly removes this fear. Instead, it strengthens it. Every time you abandon your own needs to satisfy someone else, your brain receives the message that avoiding rejection is more important than respecting yourself. The next time a similar situation appears, the fear becomes even stronger. Slowly, people-pleasing transforms from an occasional habit into an entire identity. One of the clearest signs of this pattern is the inability to say no. For someone trapped in people-pleasing, saying no feels almost impossible. Even when they are exhausted, overwhelmed, or emotionally drained, they continue agreeing to requests because refusal creates unbearable guilt. Their mind immediately imagines the worst possible outcomes. They worry people will become angry, disappointed, or leave them forever. To prevent these imagined consequences, they continue sacrificing themselves. Ironically, this constant self-sacrifice rarely creates healthy relationships. Instead, it attracts individuals who become comfortable benefiting from endless generosity. Some people may not intentionally manipulate them, but they quickly learn that this person rarely refuses anything. Others, however, recognize the emotional weakness and deliberately exploit it. They know guilt is an effective tool. They know emotional pressure will usually produce compliance. Over time, the people-pleaser becomes trapped in relationships where giving is expected and receiving is rare. Another hidden fear behind people-pleasing is the fear of conflict. Many individuals believe disagreement automatically destroys relationships. They confuse conflict with hatred. As a result, they avoid expressing frustration, disappointment, or anger. Instead of discussing problems openly, they remain silent. They smile while feeling hurt. They pretend everything is fine while resentment quietly grows inside them. This emotional suppression has serious consequences. Human emotions do not disappear simply because they are ignored. Anger becomes anxiety. Sadness becomes emotional exhaustion. Frustration becomes depression. Eventually, the person begins feeling constantly tired without understanding why. They may believe life itself is exhausting when, in reality, carrying years of unexpressed emotions has become their greatest burden. Fear of abandonment also plays a major role. Many people secretly believe that if they stop being useful, others will stop loving them. They feel valuable only when solving problems, offering support, giving advice, or making sacrifices. Their self-worth becomes connected to service rather than existence. Instead of believing they deserve love simply because they are human, they believe love must always be earned through constant giving. This creates an impossible standard. No matter how much they give, it never feels enough. There is always another favor to perform, another problem to solve, another person to rescue. Even when they receive appreciation, it provides only temporary relief because the deeper insecurity remains untouched. Their value still depends on external validation rather than internal confidence. Social expectations often reinforce this behavior. Society frequently praises those who are endlessly selfless while criticizing those who establish firm boundaries. People who constantly help others are called generous. Those who decline unreasonable requests may be labeled selfish. Because of this, many individuals continue ignoring their own emotional needs simply to maintain the image of being a good person. However, genuine kindness does not require self-destruction. There is an important difference between generosity and self-neglect. A healthy person gives because they want to, not because they are afraid. They help others while also protecting their own mental health. They understand that compassion includes compassion toward themselves. Developing healthy boundaries is one of the most important steps toward overcoming people-pleasing. Boundaries are not walls designed to push people away. They are guidelines that protect emotional well-being. They communicate what is acceptable and what is not. They allow relationships to become balanced rather than one-sided. When someone respects your boundaries, trust grows stronger. When someone repeatedly violates them, you gain valuable information about the true nature of that relationship. Learning to tolerate discomfort is equally important. At first, saying no may produce intense guilt. Expressing disagreement may create anxiety. Setting boundaries may feel unnatural. This discomfort is normal because the brain is adjusting to a completely different way of living. Over time, however, confidence begins replacing fear. The individual discovers that healthy relationships survive honest communication, while unhealthy ones often disappear. One of the greatest transformations occurs when a person realizes they are not responsible for managing everyone else's emotions. Other people's disappointment does not automatically mean you have done something wrong. Someone can disagree with your decision without making your decision immoral. Mature relationships allow space for different opinions, changing priorities, and personal boundaries. Self-worth also begins to change. Instead of measuring value through approval, the individual starts measuring value through authenticity. They no longer ask, "Does everyone like me?" Instead, they ask, "Am I living according to my values?" This shift creates emotional freedom because confidence no longer depends on constant praise from others. Perhaps the most beautiful part of this transformation is that kindness does not disappear. In fact, it becomes more genuine than ever before. Acts of generosity are no longer motivated by fear or guilt. They come from sincere compassion. The person still helps others, but they no longer abandon themselves in the process. They still forgive, but they no longer tolerate repeated disrespect. They still love deeply, but they understand that love without boundaries eventually becomes suffering. True emotional strength is not found in pleasing everyone. It is found in having the courage to be authentic, even when authenticity risks disapproval. It is found in speaking honestly instead of hiding behind forced politeness. It is found in respecting yourself enough to accept that not everyone will understand your choices. People-pleasing may appear peaceful on the surface, but beneath it often lies fear, anxiety, and emotional exhaustion. Real kindness begins only when fear no longer controls your decisions. When you stop seeking permission to exist, stop apologizing for having needs, and stop believing that love must always be earned, you finally become free. In that freedom, kindness is no longer a mask hiding insecurity. It becomes an authentic expression of confidence, dignity, and genuine compassion. Many people grow up believing that success belongs to those who are the kindest, the most honest, and the most hardworking. They are told that if they simply do the right thing, opportunities will naturally come their way. While these qualities are undeniably important, life repeatedly shows that they are not always enough. Countless talented and ethical people remain overlooked, while others who are more confident, strategic, and decisive rise to positions of influence. This reality can seem unfair, but it reveals an important truth. Kindness without strategy often leaves people vulnerable, while strength guided by wisdom creates lasting influence. Being strategic does not mean becoming manipulative, dishonest, or ruthless. It means understanding reality as it is instead of as we wish it to be. It means recognizing that good intentions alone cannot protect you from those who are driven by selfish interests. Throughout history, individuals who achieved meaningful success were rarely successful because they were simply kind. They succeeded because they combined their values with intelligence, preparation, discipline, and the ability to make difficult decisions when necessary. One of the greatest mistakes people make is assuming that everyone thinks and behaves the same way they do. Honest people often assume others are honest. Loyal people expect loyalty in return. Compassionate people believe others naturally care about fairness. Unfortunately, Human nature is far more complex. Some people are trustworthy, while others are motivated primarily by personal gain. Some appreciate generosity, while others see generosity as an opportunity to exploit. Strategy begins with accepting this reality instead of denying it. History offers countless examples of intelligent individuals who failed because they relied only on good intentions. They trusted the wrong people, ignored warning signs, avoided confrontation, or believed that fairness alone would protect them. Meanwhile, less talented but more strategic individuals anticipated risks, adapted to changing circumstances, and positioned themselves carefully. Their success was not always the result of superior ability but of superior judgment. This idea was central to Niccolò Machiavelli's political philosophy. Often misunderstood as someone who promoted cruelty, Machiavelli was actually observing how power operates in the real world. He understood that leaders who rely only on kindness often lose authority, while leaders who combine compassion with strength maintain stability. His writings challenged the comforting illusion that morality alone determines success. Instead, he argued that effectiveness requires understanding human behavior, anticipating challenges, and acting with wisdom rather than blind idealism. One of his most famous ideas is that appearance matters almost as much as reality. People rarely know your true intentions. They judge what they can observe. They notice confidence, decisiveness, consistency, and competence long before they understand your character. A highly capable individual who constantly doubts themselves may be overlooked, while someone with average abilities but strong presence may be viewed as a natural leader. This does not mean pretending to be someone you are not. It means communicating your abilities with confidence instead of hiding them behind unnecessary modesty. Many talented individuals spend years waiting to be recognized. They believe that if they simply work hard enough, someone will eventually notice their value. Unfortunately, the world often rewards visibility as much as ability. Employers, clients, colleagues, and even friends cannot appreciate strengths they never see. Strategy involves learning how to communicate your contributions, demonstrate your competence, and ensure your efforts are visible without becoming arrogant. Another important aspect of strategy is understanding timing. Wisdom is not only about knowing what to do but also knowing when to do it. There are moments to speak and moments to remain silent. There are opportunities that require immediate action and situations that demand patience. Many failures occur not because people choose the wrong action but because they choose the right action at the wrong time. Emotional control is another essential element of strategic thinking. People who allow anger, fear, jealousy, or frustration to control their decisions often create unnecessary problems. A strategic person understands that emotions provide valuable information but should not dictate behavior. They pause before reacting. They evaluate consequences. They think several steps ahead rather than seeking immediate emotional satisfaction. This ability becomes especially important during conflict. Many individuals either avoid confrontation completely or react impulsively when disagreements arise. Neither approach is effective. Strategic individuals address problems calmly and directly. They understand that unresolved issues rarely disappear on their own. By communicating clearly and confidently, they protect both their relationships and their self-respect. Strategy also requires learning to observe rather than constantly reacting. Many people reveal their thoughts, plans, frustrations, and weaknesses too quickly. In contrast, wise individuals spend more time listening than speaking. They pay attention to patterns of behavior instead of promises. They evaluate character through actions rather than words. This patient observation allows them to make better decisions about whom to trust and how to respond. Another powerful principle is understanding incentives. Human behavior is often shaped by rewards and consequences. People generally move toward what benefits them and avoid what creates discomfort. Strategic thinking recognizes these motivations instead of assuming everyone acts from pure morality. This understanding helps individuals negotiate more effectively, build stronger relationships, and avoid unrealistic expectations. Boundaries are another expression of strategic strength. Many people believe kindness requires unlimited availability, endless forgiveness, and constant sacrifice. In reality, healthy boundaries protect both relationships and personal well-being. When you consistently communicate what you will and will not accept, others gain clarity about how to treat you. Boundaries reduce confusion, prevent resentment, and discourage manipulation. Confidence also plays a critical role in effectiveness. Confidence is not loudness, arrogance, or domination. It is quiet certainty. It is trusting your judgment while remaining open to learning. Confident individuals do not constantly seek approval because they are guided by their values rather than public opinion. This inner stability makes them difficult to manipulate because their decisions are not controlled by fear of rejection. One reason strategic people often appear successful is that they accept responsibility for their circumstances. Instead of blaming luck, society, or other people for every setback, they ask constructive questions. What can I learn from this? What should I change? How can I improve my position? This mindset transforms obstacles into opportunities for growth rather than permanent excuses. Adaptability is another defining characteristic of strategic individuals. The world changes constantly. Economic conditions shift, technologies evolve, relationships transform, and unexpected challenges emerge. Those who rigidly cling to old methods often struggle. Those who adapt while remaining true to their principles continue moving forward. Flexibility is not weakness. It is intelligence responding to reality. Strategic thinking also means choosing battles carefully. Not every disagreement deserves your energy. Not every criticism requires a response. Not every opportunity aligns with your goals. Effective individuals understand the importance of conserving time, attention, and emotional resources for what truly matters. This selective focus allows them to achieve greater results without becoming overwhelmed by unnecessary distractions. Another overlooked aspect of strength is the willingness to make unpopular decisions. Pleasing everyone is impossible. Leaders, parents, entrepreneurs, and professionals frequently face situations where the right decision disappoints someone. Strategic individuals accept this reality. They prioritize long-term outcomes over temporary approval. They understand that leadership often requires courage rather than popularity. Integrity remains an essential part of this process. Strategy without ethics becomes manipulation. Power without character becomes oppression. True effectiveness does not require abandoning moral principles. Instead, it combines ethical behavior with realistic understanding. It seeks solutions that protect both personal values and practical success. This balance creates influence that is both respected and sustainable. Self-awareness is equally important. Strategic people understand their strengths, weaknesses, emotional triggers, and personal biases. They recognize when pride is clouding judgment or when fear is preventing necessary action. This honest self-examination allows continuous improvement because growth begins with accurate self-perception. Perhaps the greatest difference between naive kindness and strategic strength lies in intentionality. Naive individuals often react automatically. They say yes because they fear conflict. They trust because they fear appearing suspicious. They forgive because they fear losing relationships. Strategic individuals make conscious choices. They help because they choose to help. They trust after observing character. They forgive when it promotes healing rather than enabling repeated harm. This intentional approach creates greater freedom. Instead of feeling controlled by circumstances or other people's expectations, individuals become active participants in shaping their own lives. They understand that every decision influences future opportunities. Small daily choices gradually build confidence, reputation, and resilience. Ultimately, strategy is not about defeating others. It is about mastering yourself. It is the ability to think clearly under pressure, protect your values without becoming naive, and pursue meaningful goals with intelligence and courage. Kindness remains a beautiful quality, but kindness alone cannot navigate every challenge life presents. When kindness is strengthened by wisdom, confidence, emotional discipline, and strategic thinking, it becomes truly powerful. The world does not always reward those with the purest intentions. It often rewards those who understand reality, prepare carefully, communicate confidently, and act decisively while remaining faithful to their principles. Lasting success belongs not to those who abandon kindness, but to those who combine compassion with strength, morality with wisdom, and good intentions with thoughtful strategy. Kindness has always been celebrated as one of the highest human virtues. From childhood, we are taught to be polite, generous, forgiving, and compassionate. We are encouraged to help those in need, treat others with respect, and avoid causing unnecessary pain. These lessons are valuable because a society without kindness would quickly become cold and divided. However, somewhere along the way, many people begin to confuse kindness with weakness. They start believing that being a good person means never saying no, never getting angry, never defending themselves, and always putting other people first. This misunderstanding creates a dangerous pattern where kindness is no longer an expression of strength, but a form of self-sacrifice that slowly destroys confidence and self-respect. There is an enormous difference between choosing to be kind and being unable to stand up for yourself. Real kindness comes from freedom. It is a conscious decision made by someone who has the strength to say no but chooses to say yes when it is right. Weakness, on the other hand, is not a choice. It comes from fear, insecurity, and the inability to protect personal boundaries. A person who agrees with everything because they are terrified of rejection is not demonstrating kindness. They are demonstrating fear. Likewise, someone who remains silent while being mistreated is not necessarily patient. They may simply be afraid of confrontation. One of the greatest misconceptions in modern life is the belief that avoiding conflict always makes someone a better person. Many people spend years suppressing their opinions because they think disagreement automatically makes them rude or disrespectful. They stay quiet when someone insults them, accepts unfair treatment at work, tolerates unhealthy relationships, and continue making sacrifices for people who rarely appreciate them. They convince themselves that they are taking the higher road. In reality, they are slowly abandoning themselves. Healthy kindness never requires you to lose your identity. It allows you to care deeply about others while still respecting your own needs. You can listen to someone with compassion without accepting abuse. You can forgive someone without allowing them to repeat the same harmful behavior. You can support your family and friends without carrying every burden they place upon you. Kindness becomes unhealthy only when it constantly demands the destruction of your own emotional well-being. People often admire individuals who appear endlessly available. They appreciate the friend who always helps, the employee who never refuses extra work, the family member who solves everyone's problems, and the partner who constantly compromises. Yet over time something surprising happens. Instead of appreciating these sacrifices more, people often begin expecting them. The extraordinary becomes ordinary. The favor becomes an obligation. The generosity becomes invisible. When the kind person finally reaches their limit and says no, others react with disappointment or frustration because they had become accustomed to unlimited access. This is why boundaries are not the opposite of kindness. They are one of its most important companions. Boundaries protect your ability to remain genuinely compassionate without becoming emotionally exhausted. They remind both you and others that your time, energy, and emotional health have value. Without boundaries, kindness eventually turns into resentment because giving never stops while appreciation gradually disappears. Many individuals fear that becoming more assertive will make them appear selfish or cold. They imagine that standing up for themselves will damage relationships or push people away. But healthy assertiveness is neither selfish nor aggressive. It simply means communicating honestly while respecting both yourself and others. It means saying, "I cannot do that today," instead of inventing excuses. It means expressing discomfort instead of pretending everything is fine. It means refusing disrespect without feeling guilty for protecting your dignity. Confidence plays an essential role in this balance. A confident person does not need to dominate conversations or intimidate others. Their strength comes from inner certainty rather than external approval. They understand their values and remain committed to them even when facing criticism. Because they respect themselves, they naturally encourage others to treat them with respect as well. Their kindness is never mistaken for weakness because everyone understands it comes from choice rather than helplessness. History provides many examples of individuals who combined compassion with extraordinary strength. Great leaders often cared deeply about the people they served, yet they also made difficult decisions when necessary. They were willing to disappoint others in the short term if it meant protecting a greater purpose. Their kindness was balanced by courage, discipline, and responsibility. Without these qualities, their compassion alone would have been insufficient to lead effectively. This balance is also reflected in philosophy. Even thinkers who emphasized virtue rarely suggested becoming passive. Courage has always been considered an essential companion to kindness. Justice requires the willingness to confront wrongdoing. Compassion requires wisdom to know when helping truly benefits someone and when it merely enables destructive behavior. Strength and kindness are not enemies. They complete one another. One reason people confuse kindness with weakness is that society often rewards compliance. Individuals who never challenge authority, never question unfair treatment, and never express disagreement are often described as easy to work with. However, long-term respect is rarely earned through constant agreement. People admire those who communicate honestly while remaining respectful. They trust individuals who possess both integrity and backbone. Another important distinction is between forgiveness and permission. Forgiveness is a personal decision to release bitterness and move forward. Permission is allowing harmful behavior to continue without consequence. Many people believe these two ideas are identical, but they are not. You can forgive someone while still ending the relationship. You can let go of resentment while refusing further mistreatment. Genuine forgiveness heals the heart, but healthy boundaries protect the future. Self-respect is impossible without the ability to defend your values. Every time you remain silent against repeated injustice, a small part of your confidence weakens. Every time you tolerate disrespect to avoid conflict, you send yourself the message that your feelings are less important than someone else's comfort. Over months and years, these small compromises accumulate into deep emotional exhaustion. The individual may no longer recognize themselves because they have spent so much time becoming who everyone else wanted them to be. Learning to say no is one of the most powerful acts of personal growth. At first, it feels uncomfortable because many people have been conditioned to associate refusal with guilt. Yet every respectful no strengthens self-confidence. It reminds you that your needs matter. It teaches others that your kindness cannot be taken for granted. Over time, people begin responding differently because they recognize that your generosity has limits. True kindness also requires discernment. Not everyone deserves the same level of trust, effort, or emotional investment. Wise individuals understand that compassion should be guided by judgment rather than blind obligation. They help those who genuinely seek growth while recognizing when repeated assistance simply enables irresponsibility. They offer second chances but remain cautious about giving endless opportunities to those who repeatedly abuse their trust. Emotional intelligence is another key part of strong kindness. Emotionally intelligent people recognize their feelings without allowing those feelings to control every decision. They acknowledge anger without becoming destructive. They experience disappointment without becoming bitter. They remain compassionate without becoming naive. This emotional balance allows them to respond thoughtfully instead of reacting impulsively. One of the greatest transformations occurs when people stop measuring their worth by how much they sacrifice. Many individuals secretly believe they earn love by constantly giving more than they receive. They become trapped in relationships where their value depends entirely on usefulness. Freedom begins when they realize that human dignity does not need to be earned through endless service. Every person deserves respect simply because they exist, not because they endlessly satisfy everyone else's expectations. As confidence grows, kindness becomes more authentic. Acts of generosity are no longer motivated by fear of rejection or desire for approval. They arise from genuine compassion. The person helps because they truly want to help, not because they feel emotionally obligated. They support others without abandoning themselves. They remain caring while refusing manipulation. Their kindness becomes stronger precisely because it is protected by healthy boundaries. Some people may misunderstand this change. Those who benefited from unlimited access to your time and energy may accuse you of becoming selfish. They may say you have changed. In truth, you have changed. You have replaced fear with confidence. You have replaced guilt with self-respect. You have learned that protecting your peace does not require abandoning your compassion. Kindness is one of humanity's greatest strengths when it is combined with courage. It allows us to build meaningful relationships, create trust, and contribute positively to the lives of others. But kindness without boundaries becomes vulnerability. Compassion without wisdom becomes exploitation. Generosity without self-respect becomes emotional exhaustion. The strongest people are not those who harden their hearts or stop caring about others. They are the ones who remain compassionate while refusing to become victims of manipulation. They know how to love without losing themselves, forgive without forgetting important lessons, and give without destroying their own well-being. They understand that true kindness is never weakness. It is quiet strength guided by wisdom, protected by boundaries, and rooted in deep respect for both others and themselves. For most of life, many people unknowingly chase something that always seems just out of reach. They seek acceptance from family, friends, co-workers, partners, and even strangers. They adjust their personality to fit every environment, hide opinions that might create disagreement, suppress emotions that seem inconvenient, and constantly ask themselves one silent question: will they still like me if I show them who I really am? This endless pursuit of approval slowly becomes a way of life. At first it seems harmless. It feels polite, responsible, even mature. But over time, the desire to be accepted becomes a prison, because a person who depends on everyone else's approval can never truly be free. Freedom does not begin when the world changes. It begins when you stop allowing other people's opinions to determine your value. This is one of the hardest lessons anyone can learn because human beings naturally desire connection. We all want to belong. We all want to be understood. There is nothing wrong with wanting love or meaningful relationships. The problem begins when acceptance becomes more important than authenticity. The moment you sacrifice your truth simply to avoid disappointing others, you begin trading your freedom for temporary comfort. Many people spend years playing roles they never consciously chose. They become the reliable friend who never complains, the obedient employee who never questions unfair treatment, the perfect child who always fulfills expectations, or the supportive partner who ignores their own needs to keep the relationship alive. They perform these roles so consistently that eventually they forget who they were before the performance began. Their identity becomes whatever other people expect from them. Living this way creates an exhausting internal conflict. On the outside, everything may appear peaceful. People describe you as pleasant, helpful, understanding, and easy to get along with. Yet inside there is growing frustration. You feel unseen because no one truly knows you. They know the version of you that constantly adapts to satisfy them. The real person remains hidden beneath years of fear, compromise, and emotional suppression. Authenticity is the opposite of this hidden life. Authenticity means allowing your actions to reflect your genuine values instead of your fear of rejection. It means speaking honestly while remaining respectful. It means expressing your needs without apologizing for having them. It means making decisions based on your principles rather than on whether everyone will approve. This does not mean becoming rebellious for the sake of rebellion. Authenticity is not about disagreeing with everyone or refusing every request. It is about making conscious choices instead of automatic ones. Sometimes authenticity means saying yes because you genuinely want to help. Other times it means saying no because helping would require betraying yourself. The difference lies in the motivation. One decision comes from freedom. The other comes from fear. One of the greatest obstacles to authenticity is the belief that everyone must understand your choices. Many people spend enormous amounts of energy trying to explain themselves. They provide endless justifications for every decision because they hope that if others understand, they will finally receive approval. Unfortunately, this rarely works. Every person views life through their own experiences, beliefs, expectations, and insecurities. No explanation can guarantee agreement. Learning to accept misunderstanding is an important step toward emotional freedom. Some people will disagree with your boundaries. Others will misinterpret your intentions. Some may even criticize your growth because it challenges the version of you they had grown comfortable using. This discomfort is unavoidable. The goal is not to eliminate criticism but to stop allowing criticism to control your life. Self-respect becomes the foundation of this transformation. Respect from others is valuable, but it is unstable if it depends entirely on pleasing them. Self-respect is different. It grows every time you remain loyal to your principles despite external pressure. It grows when you keep promises made to yourself. It grows when you protect your mental health instead of sacrificing it for temporary approval. Many people confuse self-respect with arrogance, but they are completely different. Arrogance believes it is superior to others. Self-respect simply recognizes equal worth. It does not require dominating conversations, proving intelligence, or seeking attention. It quietly communicates that your time, emotions, and dignity deserve protection just as much as anyone else's. One powerful sign of growing authenticity is becoming comfortable with disappointment. Not your own disappointment, but the disappointment of others. Healthy adults understand that disappointing someone occasionally is inevitable. Every meaningful decision closes certain doors while opening others. If your priority is ensuring that nobody is ever disappointed, you will eventually disappoint yourself every single day. Authentic people understand that saying no is sometimes an act of honesty rather than rejection. Declining an invitation because you need rest is not selfish. Refusing unreasonable demands is not cruelty. Ending unhealthy relationships is not heartlessness. These decisions may disappoint others, but they also protect your emotional well-being. Freedom also requires letting go of perfection. Many people believe they must always appear successful, intelligent, patient, and emotionally strong. They hide mistakes because they fear judgment. They suppress vulnerability because they mistake it for weakness. Yet perfection is impossible. The pursuit of perfection keeps people trapped in constant anxiety because every mistake feels like a threat to their identity. Authenticity allows imperfections to exist without destroying self-worth. It recognizes that mistakes are opportunities for learning rather than evidence of failure. An authentic person can admit being wrong without feeling worthless. They can ask for help without feeling weak. They can change their mind without believing they have lost credibility. Another important part of emotional freedom is learning to trust your own judgment. Many individuals constantly seek reassurance before making decisions. They ask multiple people for advice, hoping someone else will remove the uncertainty. While seeking wisdom is valuable, constantly depending on external validation weakens confidence. Growth occurs when you gather information, reflect carefully, and then trust yourself to decide. Authenticity also transforms relationships. At first, some connections may weaken because they were built upon your willingness to ignore your own needs. People who benefited from your constant compliance may resist your new boundaries. They may accuse you of changing or becoming difficult. In reality, they are reacting to the loss of control they once enjoyed. At the same time, healthier relationships become stronger. Genuine friends appreciate honesty because it creates trust. They respect boundaries because they understand mutual respect. They value your real personality rather than the version designed solely to keep them comfortable. Authenticity filters relationships, revealing which ones are built on love and which ones are built on convenience. Living authentically also reduces anxiety. Much of human stress comes from maintaining false identities. Pretending to agree when you disagree, hiding emotions, and constantly monitoring other people's reactions requires enormous mental energy. When you begin living honestly, much of that energy becomes available for creativity, growth, meaningful work, and genuine connection. The philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche once suggested that becoming who you truly are is one of life's greatest challenges. This process is not completed overnight. It requires courage because authenticity often demands letting go of familiar patterns. It requires patience because years of conditioning cannot disappear instantly. Most importantly, it requires honesty, the willingness to examine your own fears without hiding behind comforting excuses. Self-discovery is not about inventing a completely new personality. It is about removing the masks accumulated over years of seeking approval. Beneath those masks already exists the person you are always capable of becoming. Someone who can be compassionate without becoming submissive. Someone who can be confident without becoming arrogant. Someone who can love deeply without abandoning themselves. One of the greatest freedoms in life arrives when you no longer wake up wondering how to make everyone happy. Instead, you ask a different question. Am I living according to my values today? This simple shift changes everything. Success is no longer measured by applause but by integrity. Peace is no longer dependent on praise but on inner alignment. This does not mean life becomes easy. Difficult conversations still happen. Criticism still exists. Some people will leave because they preferred the version of you that never challenged them. Yet despite these losses, something far more valuable is gained. You gain your own voice. You gain confidence in your decisions. You gain relationships built on honesty instead of performance. Most importantly, you gain yourself. True freedom is not found in controlling other people's opinions. It is found in releasing your dependence on them. Authenticity is not about becoming perfect, fearless, or universally admired. It is about living honestly enough that your inner life and outer life no longer contradict each other. When you stop seeking permission to exist, stop apologizing for having boundaries, and stop measuring your worth through the approval of others, you discover a quiet strength that cannot be taken away. This strength allows you to remain kind without becoming weak, generous without becoming exploited, and compassionate without losing your identity. That is the foundation of genuine freedom. It is not the freedom to make everyone love you. It is the freedom to finally become yourself.